Evening sports fans, how are you? Oh, I look funny, don't I? Take my sunglasses off. How's it going? Just got back from an advanced investing day and pleased to say that it was gratifying to know that other people are teaching exactly what I've been teaching. Those of you know me, everything I heard today I've taught you, so that was good. And just wanted to finish off, actually, as you know, I've been talking about holding negatively geared property, and so it's going to be a bit funny. You're not going to be able to see, but the reason I want to do it here was my IT man and friend Ben did a negative cash flow calculator just to satisfy himself. It's what I recommended you do to work out the real cost of holding some negatively geared property. And so, excuse me, I'm going to talk over my shoulder a bit, but I just wanted, it's really cool what he's done, just to be able to explain to you what I was talking about. So I'm just going to punch in some stuff here where your normal mortgage interest rate is 8%, and then I talked about paying 12% to borrow what was negatively geared. In this particular property, we've got a weekly rent of $350, which is not unreasonable, certainly in Auckland. Registered valuation of $380, purchase price of $320. Now what Ben's done, which is great, is we've got 2 weeks vacancy, $12.50 for rates, $12.50 for insurance, which is very high, but we'll leave it in there, and $1,800 a year for maintenance. Okay. We've allowed for, and the standard one will start off with annual growth rate of 5%. As I've said before, that is quite good for 2 or 3 years, but over 5 or 10 it's just ridiculous. It was over 10 years we're saying the property is going to go up by 50 or 60%, and it's not, it's going to go up by more, but we'll start there. So what the calculator shows is that based on those numbers, which are the same numbers that I gave you in my earlier blogs, except we're allowing a bit more for some things, your total negative cash flow at the end of year 1 is $13,973. We're then capitalising the interest and rolling it forward. So at the end of year 1, our net equity is $46,000. At the end of year 5, it is $58,000. At the end of year 10, it is $57,000. Now that's because we've only got 5% annual growth, so it doesn't make sense over time. So let's just quickly make it annual growth of, say, 7%. Now that makes the most incredible difference. Year 1 is $46,000. Year 5 is $94,000. This is net equity. This is on top of funding our negatively geared property. All right, this is the important thing to understand. By year 10, it's $166,000. Now let's say that we allow for rates, insurance and maintenance to increase by 4% per annum, which is basically 1% above inflation. But if we do that and we're looking at 10 years, we also have to allow for, let's say, 3% for rent increase. All right, that is fair enough. If you're going to factor in one, you've got to factor in the other. So now, end of 5 years, $98,000. End of 10 years, $190,000. So what's this? This is a property that is just over 5% yield. We're borrowing every cent of the holding costs, and so our loan to value ratio is going down every year, and we're not putting any real money into this. And if you were able to actually make some extra money, do one trade here and there, anything like that, the figure at the bottom is going to be even higher. So let's take a more aggressive view where we say, well, on average the annual growth rate is 10%. That's not unreasonable. Leave the rental increase at 3% a year, increase the rates and insurance every year by 5%. Now at the end of year 5, our net equity is $156,000, and at the end of 10 years it's $384,000. So as I've said many times before, I just cannot stress this enough, the power of learning how to be financially literate. You can hold properties that pre-tax, and when there's no tax in here, again you have to remember that. For those of you who think this sounds a bit unbelievable, we can depreciate this as well. So any of you could buy that unit that I bought last week. Now, let's consider this. Seeing I've got time, I have to limit my videos at the moment to 10 minutes. If I sometimes seem to be wrapping up, it's because I know I'm running out of time. So let's say that we bought it for $320,000 and the registered valuation was $320,000, right? Now let's go back to, let's put the annual growth back to 5%, rent increased to, well, let's make the annual growth 7 because that's the minimum number that really makes much sense. Rates and insurance and maintenance are increasing by CPI, and we've got a rent increase of 2%. We'll leave the vacancy and everything else. So we're now buying no equity on the day that we buy it. Okay, so you need equity somewhere else to be able to borrow the $12,400 that you need for the first year. So at the end of the first year, you've got a equity deficit of $13,900. End of the second year at 6. Year 3 you break even. Year 5 you are nearly $20,000 ahead. Year 10 you still now have $70,000 net equity. So if you went out and bought a property at retail, and if you can't find a property for $320,000 that will pay you $350 a week, email me and I'll sell you one tomorrow. As many of you who would like one, I'll sell you one because they're lying all around Auckland. As long as you've got enough equity or a credit card, if you can borrow $12,400 at no more than 12% interest, ring me, I'll put you into a property for $320,000 that will pay you $350 a week. You'll never have to put a cent into that property. And in 10 years' time, this is such a ridiculously conservative picture, I'm embarrassed to almost be using it, you will still be $70,000 better off. In reality, I believe that you will get more like 4% growth in your rent over 10 years. In your capital growth rate, let's say it's 9% to allow for compounding. Now at the end of 10 years, you'll have $203,000 net equity. So you can go and buy a property, full retail, brick and tile. This was a 3-bedroom unit in Papatoetoe. Low maintenance, bulletproof for tenancies. I've allowed for everything. All you need is a one-off borrow $12,400, and from then on you cannot go wrong. One of the things that was talked about today that you've heard me speak about is that with the baby boomers retiring, the likelihood of us having even flat, I think things might, we call it a building phase and we're not having a slump, the likelihood of there being a drop in property values is like, see the distance between these fingers? That's how likely I think it is that it will happen in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. 2010 is the first year that the baby boomers will start retiring. I reckon you've heard me say it's 130,000 a year. They've actually worked out in the first year it's going to be 125,000, and that's in 2010. So accumulation is the name of the game. You need to have as much property under your belt as you can. This is a simple way. The Warehouse and Westpac have credit cards at the moment for 4% or 5%. So let's say we did that, let's say that you could borrow the money, if you've got equity elsewhere, let's say you could borrow the money for your top up at 8%, and you're still paying absolute full retail for the property. So at the end of 5 years, you've still got net equity of 60k, and at the end of 10 years, you've got 213. This is without you ever making any additional money, learning how to trade or anything like that. So there you go. I'll obviously continue to talk about this as a general topic, but I just felt it was a bit unfinished with the blog. So there you go. There's nothing stopping you buying. So there you go. Thank you for your time. For those of you who have been wondering, I've had such a demand for a repeat of the trading workshop that we're looking at setting dates for that in Wellington and Christchurch. Those of you who've already been, we'll be sending you a special deal if you want to re-attend. And we'll also be setting dates for Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch for behind closed doors. We're severely seriously. Rejigging that, we're going to add a lot more value into that. We were really, because when you're doing a one-off it's hard, we were happy with the first part of the day but not with the second quite so much, so we want to improve that. And the opportunity will be for you to meet me and Rowan in Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch. We'll have dates set within the next week, so stay tuned. Lovely to see you. Definitely talk to you tomorrow. I'm going to come and turn off the machine now.